Hello. Hey, I'm here in the community park at Browning, Illinois, on the east side of Schuyler County, and I'm on my way to Anderson Lake State Park, right on the border between Schuyler County and Fulton County, but I just had to stop here for the playground. It just fits in with what I want to talk about today. You see, a lot of Christians have a belief that God supernaturally guides us, calls us, directs us into paths of Christian service. God lays in our heart to visit this person, or to visit that person, or to go into the ministry. But other Christians believe that it's more like this playground, that as long as we stay within the guidelines of Scripture, as long as we live holy lives, as long as we're trusting Christ, that we might be on the swings. Or we might go over and work on the teeter-totter. Or we may go over to the monkey bars. But we have a lot more freedom to do what we want than the others believed. So, what do you believe? Well, why don't you shut the video off, just put it on pause for a minute, ponder that question, and see, what do you think it's like to be a Christian? Like playing on a playground, or a specific call of God to a certain area? Have you ever heard God call you that way? Well, while you're doing that, I think I'll just pick up and head on for Anderson Lake. But I do want you to know that this is a short midweek devotion from the Littleton United Methodist Church. Have you been thinking about how you think God speaks to us, works in our lives? I don't think I have the definitive answer to that question. I personally lean toward the idea that God speaks straight to us, or lays something on our heart, or puts a call in our spirit. That God communicates with us, that He is personal and that He is engaged. But I recognize that part of my thinking that way is my personality. That is, I tend to be kind of a mystical type of person, and that fits right in with the mystic. Not everybody is. Some people are more rational or more logical, or less mystical. Some people are perhaps more emotional. And I kind of think God can work any way He wants to. But every way that He works, there are some possible drawbacks. For instance, once I think God speaks to me directly and tells me that I should be a pastor, or that I should go to this church, or go to that church, or go talk to this person about Him, I shut down all conversation. I mean, Oh, thus saith the Lord, this is what I should do. And I've heard people and known people before that would kind of pull that out as a trump card so that no one could really challenge them when pretty much nobody else but them thought God was talking to them. That's a problem. If I feel like I can do pretty much what I want, as long as I stay within some certain boundaries of being ethical and moral and responsible and righteous, but I could play on the swing or I could play on the slide or the teeter-totter, that also brings a problem. Because sometimes people are not exactly pillars of the church, they're more like caterpillars in the church. They move to this thing until the going gets tough, and they move to this thing until the going gets tough, and then they move to this thing, and they kind of bounce from thing to thing to thing, always kind of involved in stuff, but never really having the drive to stay with it. And that's a danger. Of course, there are some people that just go along with the crowd. If everybody's on the monkey bars today, they run out to the monkey bars. And if everybody's on the slides today, they run out to the slides. Or if somebody tells them where to go where they tell them to go. There's some problems in that. Through my years of ministry, I think one of the things that has been a vital part of my ministry has been counseling people not to do what they were doing in the church. For instance, a truck just went by. For instance, virtually every Christian that has any sort of ability that starts a new church, if it's a small church, is going to be asked to teach the junior boys Sunday school class. I mean, nobody sticks in that for very long. And so every new person, somebody walks in the door, their second Sunday, people are eyeing them up, and oh, here's a junior high worker, here's a new youth worker, and maybe that's not where their gift is. I've seen people on boards and committees that really had no business being on boards and committees. It just tore them apart. I've seen people stuck in teaching positions that probably should be in more mechanical positions, but they were mature Christians, so we thought they needed to teach. That's probably not great either. Oh, and then there are some people that they don't play in the playground at all. They fell off the monkey bars a long time ago and bloodied their nose, or they took somebody else's swing seat and the other person got upset and somehow they got crossways and they just thought this whole idea is not a good thing. So they stay outside the playground looking through the fence at the people that are there and just remarking to anybody that will pass by how much they do not want to play in that playground. Now, there are probably others too, and you may be one of those. Whatever you are, I have a suggestion. It's not a be-all and end-all, and it won't solve the problem, but I have a suggestion that may be helpful to you. I'm going to suggest that you go on a silent retreat and prepare a personal mission statement. Oh, that sounds a little extreme perhaps, but unless you try it, you won't know, and it could make a lot of difference in your life. I actually think that ever so often you should go on a quiet retreat, silent retreat, and tweak your mission statement and recommit yourself to Christ and ask yourself honestly how you're doing. Now, here's what I would do. Here's what I suggest you do. I suggest you find a place where you can go away for 3 or 4 days and never open your mouth. A motel, perhaps, a camping spot, a spiritual retreat center. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Out here would be great if you have a tent or something to sleep in or something. And my suggestion is you go the first day and just have fun. Drive to where you're going, look around, explore, set up your base camp, just enjoy yourself, and don't talk, but just enjoy yourself. The second day, I suggest that from morning to night, you spend the time in solitude, perhaps in prayer, tweaking, carry a notebook with you, and work on your mission statement. If you need to stay a third day, go ahead and do the same thing for 2 days. But on the third day or on the fourth day in the morning, drive on home. It's actually not that difficult. And if you think, what would I ever do just sitting quiet by myself for that long? Let me give you some suggestions, okay? Going on a silent retreat isn't really a retreat. I mean, that is, it's not relaxing. It's serious, honest business. There are several things you want to do. You want to honestly look over where you think God is putting a call in your life. When you got that call, where that call came from. Is that call as strong today as it was when you first felt like you received it? Do you think you could be mistaken? You need to look at the things you're good at. I have some natural skills, some natural abilities, some gifts that God has given me. I've also got some areas where I just don't have it. Well, you can't get out of the hard stuff, but you don't want to commit your life to something where you're not gifted. So I've been a pastor through much of my life, but I have kind of shied away from some of the leadership positions I could have been in because that's not how God made me. You want to take a serious look at your devotions, your devotional life. We talked about that recently, and we will probably talk about it more later. But if you don't have any kind of a devotional life, that's going to be a bit of a handicap in following God into a mission for your life. You have to exercise before you are become an athlete, before you have a game, and you have to have a devotional life before you are in practice in serving the Lord in the areas that He's called you to. You need to listen carefully to what your friends and your mentors have told you in the past about areas where you may be strong or areas you may be weak. You may think you're strong in an area that is not an area where you're strong. You're just sort of impressed that that's what you should do, but it may not be. Or it may be the other way around. I tend to be a little too meek sometimes, and it could be that God calls you to step up to the plate and do something that is a little tougher than what you naturally would do, and you have to trust God for it, and there have been times I've had to do that too. Where is your realm of influence? That is, what's your responsibility to your spouse, or to your children, or to your family, or to your home church, or to a larger area? Sometimes we go off to do big flashy things and we neglect our own family. I know of a lot of pastors that have been enamored by the call and the work of the ministry and have ignored their families. Where is God calling you? To whom is God calling you? What are the gifts that you have for it? What are the gifts that you don't have for it? What are the open doors? The areas where you can go that way. Now these are all beneficial because if you are like me and you tend to be a little bit on the meek side, but you're willing to try to serve the Lord wherever God needs you, then you just have lots of people all around saying, oh, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, and you can just pile your plate so high that you can't handle it anymore. And a good, solid understanding of who you are, what your abilities are, where God is calling you, helps you to say no. Other people, they don't have a problem saying no. They just as soon not do anything anyway. And a clear understanding of where your gifts are and where the needs of the church are may convict you that you need to say yes and not just sit on the sideline. Because it may be that you are gifted in areas where nobody else is, and that's where God's calling you to. So when I would go away for a quiet spiritual retreat, I'd work with God with my devotional life, work with God with my mission statement. I would look at the near future and see what God is calling me to now. I never really looked too far into the long-term future. I figured God had the ability to kind of put me there and I didn't have to plan for it. But but in the near things, what's God want of me right now or in the next 6 months? All of those are things that are a part of a mission statement and a part of a rule of life. That is a a devotional plan. And I may talk more later in a later time about a rule of life. I guess I could go on and on and on about silent retreats, mission statements, rules of life, and if I did, it wouldn't be a short midweek devotion. So I guess I'll just kind of run out of steam here with that. Encourage you to be intentional about your faith and be real with who you are and search God for the Holy Spirit to help you understand who you are.